All right now, this one's for all you boppers out there in the big city. You know, for all you street people with an ear for the action. I've got a message I need to relay to you all. It's that, um, all right, this week we're doing the Warriors, y'all. That's right, y'all. We're taking a quick look at the Warriors come out to play by Funko Games. In other words, we're doing gang fights on the tabletop this week. So, in a nutshell, this is a 2 to 4 player cooperative survival game, or at least that's what it says on the tin. I have all the gang leader models painted, and I've played a few games so far. I really love it, and therefore I thought bringing it to the channel here would be a fun little idea. So this game is fairly simple, and I can confirm that it works well in casual and or party-like environments. Still though, it would be nice to start with a quick tutorial video for those that want to see what this game is all about. So we'll keep this one brief. We're going to set the game up and introduce all the components as we do so. Then we'll do a few turns to try and get some gameplay examples going. That way y'all can see how the game flows. And that's pretty much it. So let's rumble, boppers. Yeah, I wrote a bit of a custom script for this intro. And just trying out new stuff. Trying out new stuff so we're not rambling quite as much. And yeah, as I said, here is the Warriors come out to play. I kind of have everything separated here and sort of pre-set up just a little bit. But like I said, we're going to try to set this game up nice and proper. Where is the instruction booklet? I'm going to try to use the instruction booklet as something of a guide for what we're going to be looking at and all that jazz. This is the instruction booklet, by the way. It is this big. It's very thin. It's a very small little instruction booklet. Okay, so setup. We place the board game, tokens, and dice within reach of all players. Okay. So here's where we start, I suppose, with the board. And I actually think this is really neat for several reasons. First of all, don't tell me it's glued together. There we go. All right. So first of all, like, it's not that big, but also I really like that there's this art on the other side, and it's even like the beginning, pretty much the beginning of the story of the Warriors. Like, here's the scene in Van Cortlandt Park when Cyrus, the leader of the gang, of the Gramercy Riffs, most powerful gang in the city, is giving a speech to everybody. So I might as well read this. This is like a kind of a famous scene in the movie. You're standing right now with 9 delegates from 100 gangs, and there's over 100 more. That's 20,000 hardcore members, 40,000 counting affiliates, and 20,000 more. Not organized, but ready to fight. 60,000 soldiers. Now, there ain't but 20,000 police in the whole town. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? And yeah, he does that in the movie. He just keeps saying, can you dig it, in a slightly lower tone. Can you dig it? And the crowd goes wild. And then he kind of gets shot. That's sort of where the game starts, by the way. So as we look at the actual game board side here, we can see, like, really we have a linear path that goes from the Bronx and or Van Cortlandt Park, where the Warriors start the game. They have to fight their way out, so they're going across this map to get to Coney Island, where the final showdown is going to happen. So here's the board. We also have some tokens. So let's look at the tokens. We've got the instigator token. This just kind of goes to whoever gets challenged to a fight or starts a fight. So, like, this will be the first player token, and It just gets swapped around when somebody starts a fight. So we also have these, what the game calls movers. So these are the warriors that we have selected for this game. We got Cowboy and Snow. And not only have I not played these two just yet, so I wanted to try them out, I watched the movie because I got it on DVD, and there is one portion of the movie where these two just kind of disappear and you have no idea what happens to them, like, or how they got to Union Square Station to link up with everybody else so they can all eventually go to Coney. So it might even be, like, lore-wise kind of appropriate to have these two together, right? So anyway, these are our two characters. We put them there. You also have these fight tokens. I think we're probably going to mess with these in a bit, but these are the fight tokens. These are the bottle tokens. There's 3 bottle tokens. We'll explain those eventually. And then these are like the hit tokens. When you're fighting, you need to score hits. So these are those. All right. And the dice. Let's see. We also have these gang leader models. We're going to set them up in a bit. But here's the dice. I have to keep the dice in the little bag when I'm not playing the game. Otherwise, Harry just kind of steals them when I'm not looking. And who knows where they go sometimes. Fun fact. Anyway, let's put that up there. Okay, here's the dice. Cool. Place the Warriors gang leader figure on the 4 space. Right, so these are all the gang leader figures, and here's the Warriors gang leader figure. This is Swan, so we put him on space 4. So this is the reputation track. We start with Swan, and then we kind of randomize where all the other ones are. So I guess we're starting with Rogues at 1, Hi-Hats at 2, the Punks is at 3, Lizzies are at 5, Turnbull ACs at 6, and Baseball Furies at 7. So I still think this is kind of interesting. Like, 9 times out of 10, like, when you have plastic models, those are almost always, like, representative of the player characters. Whereas it's the other way around now. Like, the models that you can paint and make look nice, the only reason they exist is to, like, keep track of, like, the reputation of the various gangs. And in a bit, we'll talk about why that's important. Okay, so yes, we did that. Number 3, each player chooses a Warriors mover. We already did that, and places the mover on the Bronx start space of the board. That's right there in that upper left corner. Then they take the 4 cards for their Warrior and 3 throw hands cards to make a starting hand of 7 war cards. Okay, so now we talk about war cards a little bit. So we've each character, as it just said, has these unique war cards that have like their name and likeness on it and whatnot. So these would be like the starting decks for your characters. Plus, there's like a general sort of war card called Throw Hands. We give each character that's playing 3 Throw Hands cards. And then that becomes your starting hand. Okay. Now, in a nutshell, we're probably going to be talking about this in a bit, but in a nutshell, while I'm shuffling the deck, I'll just say war cards they kind of represent like your stamina and ability to fight, because you literally cannot fight unless you play war cards and or use your weapons cards, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but you need war cards in order to fight, and we will definitely see how that works soon enough. But suffice it to say, we need these war cards to fight. So let's see, each player, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Then we take the unchosen warriors cards and remaining throw hands cards, shuffle them all together. We just did that. Place them in a face down war deck. Okay, right. So we are building the decks here. We start with the war deck. All right, we take the first 3 cards, place them face down. Okay, so these are the war cards that are available at the beginning of the game should somebody earn the chance to get a new war card. And then once somebody takes one, we of course just take the top one off the deck here and replace the one that was taken. Okay. Each player takes 1 weapon card matching the weapon shown in their starting hand and places it face up in front of them. Okay. So basically you look at your warrior's unique cards, and we can see with Snow, he's got a baseball bat. And with Cowboy, he also has a baseball bat. Okay, so this will be interesting. And you'll see why soon enough. But like having a variety of weapons is a good thing because like you'll see. For now, we know that each character needs a baseball bat, so we just find 2 baseball bats from the weapon deck. We've got 1 for Cowboy, and we'll find 1 for Snow. Okay. They both have their starting weapons cards, and then much like for the war cards, we're going to reshuffle the weapon deck a bit, put it right underneath this war deck. Reveal them. Okay, we've got a Molly, brass knuckles, and a chain. All right, that's not terrible. That's not terrible at all. And each warrior can have up to 2 weapons, basically. So we have a starting weapon, and we can get another one at some point. We'll show how that works. Okay. Let's see. Yes, each one takes we're on 7 now. Shuffle the bopper cards. Okay, now we get to the bopper deck. Where the heck is it? That's in the back here. Okay. So the bopper deck is kind of interesting because it basically represents like a stealth element per se. You'll see how it works soon enough, but basically, like, bopper cards have the potential to give you threats, and as warriors accrue more threats, like the chances of being challenged to a fight increase. So sometimes you need to consider where it is you're moving and how many potential threats you might be taking on, thanks to this here boppers deck. But okay, so that's the boppers deck. And set the Van Cortlandt Park and Coney Island Showdown location tiles to the side. Mix up the remaining location tiles and place them on a face-down stack. Place the Van Cortlandt Park tile face up next to the stack. The game will begin with a fight at Van Cortlandt Park. Keep the Coney Island... Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, so what it's basically telling us to do here is this is our starting location. We have a fight at Van Cortlandt Park. We have a bunch of other locations that fights will eventually happen at. We kind of shuffle this deck a little bit per se, and we put these potential fight locations right next to this Van Cortlandt Park location. And I'm pretty sure the next thing it's going to say is, yes, mix up the gang tiles and place them in a face-down stack above the location tile stack. Reveal the top tile and place it face up above the Van Cortlandt Park tile. This is the first game that the Warriors will fight at Van Cortlandt Park. Right, so we just wash, rinse, repeat. We're going to do the same thing with the gang tiles that work somewhat similarly to the locations tiles. There just aren't as many of them. So the first gang we draw is the Rogues. That is who we fight at the beginning of the game. And then we have all the other gangs face down that we can draw when another fight gets challenged, basically. Right, and now we take the fight tokens and we put them on the board. Because basically we have these little X spaces here that represent like guaranteed fights that are going to happen. So I've noticed that there tends to be always at least one guaranteed fight per neighborhood, and the map is divided up into 4 different neighborhoods. And we put these fight tokens down on each one of these little X's. And we'll explain how that works in a bit, but for the most part, yeah, these fight tokens, of course, represent fights. And there we go. So, randomly choose a player to begin the game. All right, we give somebody the instigator token. We're going to have our dice over here. Might as well put these right underneath this. Somebody has the instigator token. Having the bottles over here is fine. Spread these out a little bit. I guess Cowboy is the instigator. Okay. All right, so everything is set up now. So let's continue to make our way through the instruction booklet here. Now, the first thing it attempts to explain is the fight phase. So we're going to get into that. We're going to explain all the aspects of the fight phase, primarily by just doing a fight. So since we start the game with a fight, put this over here so it's not covering the dice. When we start the game with a fight, and we already know who we're fighting, it's the rogues, we have to take several things into account first. So first of all, you want to know how many spaces you're going to need to cover to actually win, right? So you always need to cover at least 2 spaces that are on the gang tile itself. Each gang has a special rule that you kind of have to adhere to during the fight with them. Then on the location tile, there are other spots to cover. And we're going to need to cover the number of spots that we have equal to, well, how many people are playing. You got 2 players, you need to cover 2 spots. 3 players, 3 spots, and so on. There's usually an additional reputation spot that needs to be covered if the gang you're fighting is of a higher rep. And we are. The rogues are in the first place. They do have a higher rep, so this is at least one reason why the rep track is important. Okay, so we know we need to cover 3 spaces down here. Any 3 spaces. They could be number spaces or weapon spaces. And we need to cover 2 spaces up here as well. Okay. And this might be tricky. Might be? Not really. Okay. So let me explain what I mean. Okay, we have our baseball bats and we have our war cards. And like I said, we use these things to cover spaces on here, right? So the only weapon space that we need to cover is this one, and it says brass knuckles or switchblade. So that's an issue because we don't have brass knuckles or a switchblade. However, what I was just checking is each character does have a war card that says baseball bat can equal any weapon. So now we can see this game is primarily like a deck builder kind of. You're like playing these war cards, and sometimes you combine them with the weapon cards to get like special effects. And it's kind of like Magic the Gathering-ish a bit. It's a card game, right? So, okay. Since Cowboy is the instigator and we need to cover this weapon space, he could play this card first, and if we exhaust his baseball bat, we turn it over, we can use it with this card so that the baseball bat will equal any weapon. That way we can get a hit on this space. So that space is taken care of. And I'm going to try to keep in mind the rules for this fight is on each turn of this fight, you cannot roll more than 2 dice. Okay. So that's a good reason to try and explain how the numbered spaces work. Oh, also, when I play this war card, I keep it here next to my weapon card because this is Cowboy's discard pile, basically, right? Which is kind of interesting. Like, you have a personal discard pile for your warriors, but then eventually there's going to be another discard pile of cards that have been removed from the game. So, like, usually when you just play a card, it goes into your discard pile, and you might be able to get that card back. So war cards kind of represent your stamina, as I believe I was saying earlier. Like, without any war cards, you just don't have the ability to fight. So we'll get into how to remedy that in a bit. But we have played this. Next up is Snow, and what he can do is try to get one of these numbered spaces. So we'll try to figure out how the best way to do that might be. Let's see. I mean, basically the way this works is when you're just playing war cards to roll dice, for the most part, there is a symbol in the upper left corner of all of the war cards that'll let you know if you play it straight to just like get dice to roll, then that's how many dice you get. So the reason I'm thinking a little bit here is like, okay, Snow has these 7 cards. If I play any of them to get dice, first of all, I know that I can only get 2 dice anyway. And I'm also trying to consider, like, do I want to use the baseball bat special weapon? Like, for example, if I wanted to play this one, I could use the baseball bat to get 2 dice with 1 card, and that would be nice, but I would have to exhaust the baseball bat, and that would mean I wouldn't be able to use it to get this other space, like, pretty much instantly, right? So, I don't know. But we don't have to use this special ability here. We can play this straight to just get 1 die, and we can also play throw hands straight to get another die, and that's 2 die. So, yeah. We will ignore the special abilities on these cards for now, and we will get 2 die, because that's all we can get anyway. And we kind of have to roll die to get the numbered spaces. So, for the moment, we only need to get 4 or 3. So, I'm going to try to cover that reputation spot. We got a 3 and a 6, so we can cover either spot with that roll. So, we will cover... Let's cover the 4, because that's the higher number. So we have to cover that reputation spot still and 2 other spots down there, but we have the 2 spots on the gang tile taken care of, okay? And for the most part, it's really that simple. So, like, we can go back to Cowboy now. That was Snow that just went. Cowboy can go... We can try to get one of these 3s, I suppose, because we don't have a weapon. So we can have Cowboy play... Ooh, I see. Okay. Cowboy does have a special card called Underdog. When this is played against a gang with a higher reputation, you may cover any weapon spot or roll an extra die. I think I will just cover a weapon spot with this. We will just play this, and then we can cover any weapon spot we want. So, we'll cover this one. Boom. Cool. And then we can go back to Snow, and we could just exhaust his baseball bat to cover this spot down here. We are now at a point where we only need one more spot to cover, and we have won the fight. So we just have to do that. Let's see if Cowboy can do that. What can he play? I might as well just have him play Underdog yet again. We will play Underdog yet again, and that will mean he can roll 2 die, because there are no more weapon spots to cover, so he'll just get an extra die to roll, and we'll see if we can cover one of these 3 or more spots. Alright, we got a 3 and a 6 yet again, so we get to cover the rep spot that we needed, and now we have won the fight. And again, it is just that simple. We have covered all the spaces. Now, what could have happened during that fight, in theory, is if either one of these warriors was not able to cover a space during their turn, they would get knocked out. So either Snow or Cowboy could have been knocked out, and then they would not be able to participate in the rest of the fight to cover all the rest of the spaces. As long as all the spaces can get covered, that's great. The fight is still won. But if everybody gets knocked out, you lose the fight. But anyhow, this was not a fight that we were able to like run from per se, and it was also the first fight, so it's not going to be that difficult. Now let me confirm something real quick. Something that I was a little bit confused about the last time I played this game. Winning or losing the fight. If you cover the required number of spots as described on page 4, you win the fight. Move the rival gang leader's figure to the bottom of the reputation track, right? So we take the rogues and we put them to the bottom, and we move everybody else up 1 space. Because the rogues have now been defeated. Okay. And we, of course, remove all the defeat tokens from the cards. We take Van Cortlandt and we remove it from the game because that only shows up once. And then we also take this gang tile and we keep it face up, but we put it at the bottom of the stack, and then we replace it with the other gang tile that was on the top of the stack. So now this is the new gang that we're currently facing, kind of. We're not in a fight with them just yet, but we could be at some point. The punks are chasing us down, and at a certain point we will get challenged to a fight. So that's how that works. Right, and the other thing that we do, of course, is we take our weapon cards and we turn them back over again. You always get your weapon card back at the end of a fight. So the weapon cards will automatically refresh themselves. The war cards, however, will stay in your discard pile. And we'll talk about how to get them back in a bit. Let's see here. Right, this takes us to the city phase, because this game, for the most part, is switching between the fight phase and the city phase. When you're not fighting, you're in the city phase. When you get challenged to a fight, you go back to the fight phase. And on and on and on. That's how that works, more or less. So since we beat those rogues, we now get to go to the city phase. Yeah, the warrior with the instigator token takes the first turn and play continues clockwise. So yes, it is that simple. Like, whoever has the instigator token will take the first turn in the city phase. Everything goes counterclockwise. So Cowboy is going first. Now, the way the city phase works, more or less, as you can imagine, since we have a board with a linear path here, we move to various spaces. During each warrior's turn, they can move to any space they want under certain constraints, basically. So, Cowboy here can move to any of these spaces below him. He can even progress straight to the next fight if he wants to, but he can't move beyond that fight. So these guaranteed fight tokens represent some kind of a barrier. You cannot move into the next neighborhood until you at least attempt a fight with the current gang. Okay? So, but if I don't want to go straight to the fight, I can move to one of these other spaces that will probably give me a thing. So we're going to be moving to spaces and drawing cards, basically. So I think we will... I'll probably have Cowboy move here. If he moves to this space, that is a threatening space. You can tell it's threatening because it's got these jagged red edges and whatnot. So this is where the stealth element comes in, kind of. So Cowboy moves there, but since it's threatening, that kind of means we need to draw 2 Bopper cards. But it also means Cowboy can draw a card from the weapon deck because the little hand logo is there. There is a weapon that Cowboy can find here, but we have to draw, let's see, 1. Okay, we got Coast is Clear. So the way this works basically is when you draw a Coast is Clear card, nothing happens. That is not a threat, but we put this next to the Bopper deck. This is now the Bopper discard pile. Then we take another card. It is also Coast is Clear. So Cowboy's good. He moved there and nothing happened. So now he gets to choose any one of these 3 weapons, and I guess he's going to go with Brass Knuckles. Okay. So we will get that, and that is Cowboy. Then we can move Snow to the space right behind him, because another rule is you cannot occupy the same space another warrior is in. So you kind of need to consider a little bit where people are going to move to hopefully get them enough resources to prepare for the next fight. That's what the city phase is, more or less. And you're also sort of ducking, diving, and juking to try and avoid extra fights, which might happen if we get enough threats, right? So since Snow landed on a normal space with a war card symbol, we simply draw a war card and 1 Bopper card. So Snow gets Coast is Clear as well. We put that in the discard pile, and we also put a new weapon down since Cowboy took 1, and now Snow gets to take a war card, and he would probably like Smooth Talker. So this is normally Vermin's card, but since we're not playing as Vermin, the characters that we are playing as can still get these abilities. So we're going to pick up Vermin's ability and we're going to put it in Snow's hand, actually, not Cowboy's hand. This goes to Snow. This is a decent card too, because when this is played, you may re-roll a die after rolling. That's kinda cool. Okay, so there is that. Now we just go back to Cowboy and we move him somewhere. I think it might be good to have him move here. So now he needs to draw a Bopper's card. And he does get a threat. So once you do get a threat, you just kind of put that above your warrior's cards to remind yourself you're at 1 threat. So right now this is meaningless, but if we get 2 more threats, then a thing is going to happen. So, okay. But we also get to draw a war card. What war card would he like? Might as well grab throw hands. Because we don't have a chain. Cowboy doesn't have one, at least anyway, so we might as well grab another throw hands card. Okay. Alright, so there was that. Now Snow is going to move to the threatening space to try and get another weapon. So Snow has to draw another 2 cards. Okay, Snow gets a threat. And the second one is a second threat. Okay. Snow is at his second threat now, but he also gets to pull a weapon card. So he might as well pull a chain, I think. That way we at least have 3 of the 4 weapons. You got brass knuckles, baseball bat, chain, and or a switchblade. Now there is also, beyond those, there is also a Molotov. The Molotov is basically a wild card weapon. So it will count as any weapon, period, guaranteed. You can just play it like you would a normal weapon, but when you play it, it goes into like the permanent discard pile. Probably over here. This is where we put the cards that have been removed from the game, basically. Okay, so I believe it was Snow just got himself a weapon and 2 threat cards. Okay. So now we go back to Cowboy. We could have him move to this space, and he's going to have to draw another Bopper card, which is a threat. So now Cowboy is at 2 threats, but he also gets to take 1 card back from his discard pile. So we just get a card back. Now the other way to get cards back is you can have your warrior rest. So resting would basically be just deciding to not move for that turn, but you draw the normal amount of Bopper cards that you would for the space that you're in, and you also get all of your discard pile back, but the caveat is you have to randomly choose 1 card, 1 more card to like remove from the game. So if you spam the rest thing too much, you're going to start losing a lot of cards. So you should only rest when you really need to, because you've got like no cards, or you have a whole lot of extra cards that you would really like back, right? So anyway, but you can also land on some of these spaces that will allow you to take precisely 1 discard card back. Okay. So we could try being risky here, and we could move Snow to this war card space so that Cowboy could eventually go to that space. Now this is risky because both of them have 2 threats. So since Snow just moved, we pick a card for him. It is a threat, so we are now challenged to a fight. Okay, but he also gets to draw a war card. So we're taking Switchblade for Snow. Wait, no, we're not taking that. Snow actually does have a chain, though, so he should take this one. This one is chain equals any weapon, and that means we could cover a Switchblade spot if necessary. Okay, put another one down there. Cool. All right, so what we need to do now is set up for another fight. Now, in theory, the way this works, Snow will now get the Instigator token, and if we were playing like a normal game with 2 actual people, technically they did not say that this game can be played solo, but I don't see why it can't. I'll just control 2 characters, but an interesting rule is like the person with the Instigator can kind of secretly look at the location and decide whether they actually want to fight or not. So the Instigator can actually decide to run and not really need not be required to get the feedback from like the rest of the warriors. Now, this is interesting because if you run, sure, you don't have to do the fight because you ran, but now you are potentially taking on some additional hits to your rep. That's where these bottles come in, right? If we ever decide to run from a fight, we take a bottle token. If we decide to run from more fights, we keep adding bottle tokens, and that means the amount of rep that we go down continues to increase the more we run. So we got the subway token. We're just going to put that down and say, screw it, let's do a fight. Okay, so now we, as I said, we go seamlessly back to the fight thing. Now Snow is going to take all of his threat cards, and we're going to take all these Coast is Clear cards. We're going to kind of mix them up a little bit. And we're going to put them in the Bopper deck and mix that up a little bit. So now we have a relatively new-ish Bopper deck. Cowboy keeps his threat cards because he was not challenged to the fight. So he still has 2, but Snow is now back to 0 because we've been challenged and we have accepted the fight. Okay. Oh, also, damn it, I forgot. I think it was the fuzz. There is a condition. I'm going to assume that it was the fuzz, and I'm going to explain now. There is a condition in your latest threat that you kind of have to follow. So we're going to assume it was the fuzz. And if this is your third threat, roll a die for each of your weapons. On a 1 or 2, remove it from the game. Then you're challenged to a fight. Okay, so we're going to roll for Snow's chain. He gets to keep it. Wait, if you roll a 1 or 2, he rolled a 2. Okay, so we have to remove the chain from the game. Snow is back down to 1 weapon. Baseball bat. We got a 6, so we can keep that. Snow gets to keep his baseball bat. Okay, so that kind of sucks. So that happened. Okay, and now we start the next fight. Snow is the instigator, so he begins. We have, once again, 5 spaces that we need to cover because the punks are higher rep than us. So, what's an easy thing to start with? Oh, this sucks that we no longer have the chain. We do have bat equals any weapon, though. Cowboy does have brass knuckles. So what we might do is play this bat card and use the bat to be able to cover this chain spot on the location tile. Coffee? Where's my coffee? Ugh, I need some coffee, y'all. Okay, I think clearly the next play is, I think Cowboy can get 2 very easy hits here because he does have brass knuckles, so he can get that spot. And okay, so since he has brass knuckles, I think we're going to play this so that he can roll an extra die. Also, I usually forget about this. The special rule for the punks is before the fight, the instigator chooses a warrior in their neighborhood. That warrior discards 2 cards. Okay, so before we play anything, this means Cowboy is going to have to choose 2 cards to put in his discard pile. And I think that might as well be throw hands because we have 4 of those and 2 other ability cards. So we'll take 2 throw hands and discard that, because that was the punk's special rule. So now Cowboy can play underdog, which means he gets to roll 2 die to try and cover one of the numbered spaces. Hopefully we get a 5 or more so we can cover the rep space. We do get a 5 and a 6, so yes, we can cover the reputation space on the location tile here. Cool. All right, so next up, we go back to Snow. And this time around, actually, he has a special card that we can totally take advantage of. The Boombox. We're going to have him play this, and he can roll 3 die. We just need to remember that, like, after the fight, he's going to have to draw another Bopper card. But he gets to roll 3 die. We can cover one of these number spaces. We get a 5, a 6, and a 1. Cool. So Snow can cover any space he wants. We might as well cover this 5. Okay. Cool. So that was Snow. We go back to Cowboy, and we'll just have him use his brass knuckles to cover that spot right there. Okay. Then we can go back to Snow, and he does have Smooth Talker. That could come in handy. I think I'll just play Smooth Talker. Yeah, we'll just do that. You always need to keep in mind that, like, sure, in theory, the amount of war cards that you have in your hand, there's no cap to that. You can technically just keep as many war cards as you want. But each time you play them, they go in the discard pile. And there are only a few ways to get those cards back. And as you run out of cards, you run out of options in a fight. So in theory, you can, like, combine a bunch of different cards at once to get, like, up to 5 die to roll at once. But we're going to try to be conservative here, and Snow is going to play the Vermin card. He's going to get to roll 2 die, and just in case he doesn't make it, he can re-roll one of them. So we just need to get a 4 or more here. Cool. We get a 4 and a 1. He is good. So we cover one of these spots here. Now we just need... Actually, we don't need any more spots. We do not need any more spots. We have 2 characters, and they were fighting a higher rep gang. So we have covered enough spots. We have just won this fight. Cool. So what that means is we're going to remove... Just like last time, we remove all the hits. Put them back. Okay, we take the subway and we place that on the bottom of the deck face up. We do the same thing with the gangs. The punks are on the bottom now, and now we're up against the Baseball Furies. They are the next gang that we will be fighting. Alright, so there is that, and the punks go to the bottom of the track as well. Warriors move up to the 2nd spot. Cool, cool, cool. Also, if I haven't mentioned it yet, I don't know why I haven't, but the most important thing to keep in mind and to understand about the reputation track is if the Warriors ever dip too low on the reputation track, like if Swan was down at space 7 and he had to keep moving lower on the track, everybody loses the game. So that is the main lose condition. You want to keep rep as high as possible, or at the very least, try to make sure you don't dip too low. The game is easier when you have higher rep, because then you're not having to cover extra spaces in fights as often and all this other jazz. But, okay, so that's rep. We've done everything we need to do for resolving that fight. So since Snow is the instigator, he is the one that now moves again in the city phase. He also needs to draw an additional Bopper card, though, thanks to that boombox that he played, and he is now back to 1 threat. Okay, so we're putting that there. Snow... I think he's going to move here. He'll have to draw another Bopper card. Its coast is clear. Alright, so nothing happens, but he gets to draw a war card. And weapons back. We might just give him... Yeah, we'll give him another throw hands, because he doesn't have a switchblade or a chain. Okay. Alright, so he got that. Now we go to Cowboy, and he kind of has to move to this fight token. This is a space that he must move to. Okay. So the way this works is we remove this fight token now, and we have to attempt this fight with the Baseball Furies. In theory, we can run away from this fight, but we have to at least sort of attempt it. The token is not coming back. This is just going to be an empty space from now on, so another warrior isn't going to move there and start yet another fight or something like that. So location is platform. We'll put that down. Cool. Okay, Cowboy is the instigator because he moved there and he started the fight. All right. Okay, so yeah, the fight begins. Although it probably... All right, let's rewind. Let's rewind. I am now thinking it probably would have been a better idea to have Cowboy do the rest thing. That way I can show you how that works. And like I said, like, if Cowboy rests, he kind of has to draw another Bopper card if he rests. Oof. That means we're doing another fight. Alright, that's what happens. But he now gets to take all of his discard cards back, and we select one random card, which is throw hands, and that gets removed from the game. Okay, so Cowboy has all his cards back, but we do need to start another fight now before we even got to the fight token. Great. But, and it's come out to play, if this is your third threat, you're challenged to a fight, and you cannot run from it. Okay. Running is not an option this time. We weren't going to do it anyway, but the card says it is not. Also, the Baseball Furies special rule is we can only use one weapon in this fight. So that kind of affects Cowboy because he has 2 weapons. He can only use one of them in the fight. This is probably because the Baseball Furies are a bunch of lunatics running around with baseballs and baseball uniforms and painted faces and whatnot. Bunch of really cool, normal guys, the Baseball Furies. Anyway, so we're going to start this here fight as Cowboy. We can only use one weapon once. We don't need to worry about the reputation space. We just need to cover 4 spaces. So Underdog is not really an option this time around since we're not fighting a gang with higher rep. He does have a baseball bat equals any weapon. So... But does Snow have... Yeah, Snow doesn't have any weapon spots, and we have at least one that we need to cover. So Cowboy Nope, Snow could do that. Okay, cool. All right, I know what to do now. I had to think about this a little bit, but okay. What we could do is have Cowboy play baseball bat equals any weapon. That means he uses the baseball bat, and we can cover this chain spot because the baseball bat equals any weapon. It's just that simple. Cool. Next round, Snow can use his baseball bat to cover this space. So now we just need 2 more spaces covered. All right. So let's see here. What card should... I think we might need... We might need to do this. Cowboy can play underdog and throw hands. That'll give him 2 die. He can roll 2 die, and then he needs at least a 3 to cover a number space. Got a 5 and a 6. Cool. So we will cover the 5 spot, and then we need to cover that 4 spot to win. Okay. All right, so that was Cowboy, and then we go back to Snow, and he can play... I don't think it's really necessary. Okay, he'll do something similar. He'll do this chain equals any weapon plus throw hands, and that way he can roll 2 die. And we need to cover that 4 spot. Okay. Cool. So we won the fight. Let's see. We remove these. Baseball Furies go back down to the bottom. Everybody else moves up 1. Warriors don't increase in rep because they haven't beaten the hi-hats yet. Okay. We take this platform, put that away. Same thing with the Furies. And the next one we're fighting is the Lizzies. That says on each turn of this fight, discard any dice that roll the same number. Okay. Well, we are about to be in yet another fight already. And once again, both of us are kind of low on cards. That's funny. I wanted to show y'all how the rest worked, and I thought it might be a good idea to do that with Cowboy, but he ended up losing a decent amount of cards anyway. So, all right, so we recharge our weapons, and since Cowboy is the instigator, he moves to the fight, and yeah, so we just kind of sort of wasted some time. That's fine. So now we do the Lizzies. It's in the back streets. Okay. We don't draw any bopper cards when we go to a fight thing. So we start with Cowboy. Let's see. Let's try to definitely lean on weapons here. Can we even do that? We have a baseball bat, but the other weapon is... Okay, so Cowboy can cover that that switchblade spot. And he is the instigator, so we will start with him. So we're going to start by playing baseball bat equals any weapon. He uses his baseball bat, and we can cover that spot. Okay, so that's 1 space. Then we go to... Snow here. He can use his baseball bat as well to cover that other spot. Due to their special rule, I'm guessing we do weapons first and foremost because rolling a ton of dice may not be great against the Lizzies, since you have to discard any dice that roll the same number, basically. So let's try... Yeah, Snow just went, so we are going back to Cowboy. What does he have? Not much. Not much. Let's have him just play throw hands, and he's just going to roll one die. And we need him to get a 4 and or a 5. It's a 2. Okay, so Cowboy gets knocked out. Because he cannot cover a spot. And normally what you might be able to do is these throw hands cards are nice because their special ability is if somebody else is in trouble, you can basically force a success, but it only adds 1 to the die result. So if Cowboy had got a 3, we could Snow could like remove throw hands from the game, and then that basically saves Cowboy, which is kind of a neat mechanic because it means that like the more warriors you have in a fight, like the better chance you have, not only because you have more attacks, but they can basically do like assists with each other and whatnot. But it was a 2, so that was a failure. Cowboy has been knocked out. Now it's all up to Snow to get these 2 weapon spots covered. So okay. We can play this one so that he can roll 3 die. It will mean he has to draw another Bopper card, and any duplicates will be discarded, but hopefully we can get a 5 with this one. And we do. We get a 5, a 4, and a 1, so we cover this 5 spot. But we're going to need to remember to draw a Bopper card for Snow at the end of the fight. Okay, so since Cowboy is out, Snow is probably going to have to go all out. He's going to have to use the very last of his stamina to try and win this fight. We need a 4 or more, or we lose. And we do get a 4. We just barely sneak past. Okay. So that's the Lizzie's beaten. Snow is completely exhausted, but the Lizzies have been defeated. Okay, so we get rid of all that stuff. Ba-ba-ba. And that. And there we go. All right, so let's go back to the rulebook and just see real quick. Have we talked about all the things? I'm pretty sure. We talked about the Bopper deck. We talked about the various spaces. The only space I haven't mentioned is you've got these yellow spaces with like a subway symbol on it. If a warrior decides to move there, then nothing happens. You get no new cards, but you also draw no Bopper cards. So I guess that represents the warriors hopping on the subway car, and time just passes, but they don't get any new gear, while they also aren't attracting any attention or possibly getting into fights. So there is that. But then, let's see. We talked about the Bopper deck with Coast is Clear and threats. Yep. The bottles, we talked about that. You can run from a fight, but the more you do it, the more likely your rep goes way down, and you could potentially lose the game if you're not careful. That's really pretty much everything for the most part for the fight phase and for the city phase. The only other thing to talk about is how to win the game, basically, and adjusting difficulty a little bit. So we'll we'll talk about that just a bit. Where did I put that? Here we go. Okay, so like I said earlier, the goal of the game is to get your little movers from the Bronx all the way over here to Coney Island. So gameplay will continue in how it had been, right? We will keep on moving. We keep getting these guaranteed fights. Other fights might happen depending upon like the threat cards that we draw. But everybody's trying to move to Coney Island. Once somebody gets to Coney Island, they're kind of out of action for a little while because they're just there. They don't need to take any more turns in the city phase, which is interesting because it's, you know, it's possible that some people might be in a fight without the other members and they might need to run away. Who knows? So there are some instances in this game where like strategy and tactics comes into play because like if a warrior moves into a new neighborhood but they're the only warrior in that neighborhood and a fight starts, the other warriors in the previous neighborhood cannot participate. So it would only be your warrior in that fight. And if you're already really low on cards like Snow is, and you basically just have like a weapon, you're kind of screwed. So you probably would have to run. But yeah, you get past all this stuff and everybody gets to Coney Island. Now it's time for the Coney Island Showdown. So the Coney Island Showdown is like a special location tile that you take out once it's time to like do the final fight of the game and see if the players can actually win. And you don't just fight any gang, you fight the gang that has the highest rep, whoever that is. So at the moment, it's the Hi-Hats, and they have a higher rep than us. What's interesting about this fight as well is that, like, say we were lower rep for whatever reason, if Swan was down on space 5, by the time we get up here to do the Coney Island Showdown, we now have extra reputation spots that also need to be covered. So yeah, normally you're only doing one reputation spot if you're fighting a gang of higher rep, but by the time you get to the final showdown, if you're really low on the reputation track, you may need to do 6 additional reputation spots. Like if we were all the way on the bottom, we would have to cover 5 additional reputation spots. So this could be a very difficult fight depending upon where you are on the reputation track, basically. So again, reputation is kind of important. It sort of represents like the overall kind of health of the players. It's a collective health bar, more or less. But hey, there you go. That's the tutorial. I've explained all the things. We looked at all the components. We did a few gameplay examples. And I showed you how the game flowed, more or less. So, all right. So I got this game about 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't even a choice, really. I saw it on the shelf at my local game store, and I just had to have it. In fact, I dissed one project I was working on to start immediately painting up the gang leader models. I guess I'm trying to say I was already a fan of the Warriors ever since I did the PS2 game by Rockstar, Once Upon a Time, when that was a thing. Now, this video probably would have been released earlier, but I had an idea that I would do a bit of commentary at the end of the game, just like I did in my City of the Great Machine tutorial, that you should totally go watch now if you haven't already. Because, you know, it's there and you can just watch that video. If you, anyway. But as I dug into the Warriors, I found I was writing a full-on essay-style analysis that dipped into cultural commentary and all that, right? Like it was getting long. Because I kind of decided to like look at 4 different pieces of media and talk about like how they sort of build upon each other chronologically, more or less. Like we've just played the Warriors board game, but there's also, of course, the original movie. That movie was based on a novel. That novel was based on like a really old story from ancient Greece. So I thought it might be kind of interesting to talk about like how this same story more or less evolved over time. And fun fact, like the Warriors movie was almost a cowboy movie. It was almost a Wild West movie. That's weird. I found out a lot of weird stuff about the Warriors, and I'll probably be talking about that at some point. So yeah, once I do have that writing finished, and I may even try to do a bit of editing for it to make it look better, we might do that one. But for now, we're just doing this Warriors tutorial. I'm probably going to do at least 2 more solo gameplays of the Warriors, I think. If I do any more videos beyond that, they are probably going to be like group sessions that I am able to record. Because, of course, I need people to come into my little studio here or be able to take my equipment elsewhere. And obviously they need to be cool with being recorded on the internet and all that jazz. So anyway, okay, y'all, that's it for this time. Thanks for watching till the end, and I do hope that you enjoyed. If you do like what I do, then check out the description of this video to find some cool channel links. First off is the donation link. If you want to throw me a few bucks, then head on over to my Ko-fi page. Next up, if you want to get a good look at all the stuff that I'm working on, like those Warriors gang leaders, for the channel, then you can check out my Blue Sky account. Everything I work on gets posted there, plus some other fun stuff. So yeah, you can get a real good close-up look at all those Warriors gang leaders there on my Blue Sky account. Also, just fuck Elon Musk. I'm just putting that out there. I'm saying it every time too, because I hate Elon Musk. Fuck Elon Musk, and that's kind of why I'm on Blue Sky. Also, finally, I am a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and if you'd like to know more about them, then click on the link and maybe give them some of your money if you want to. DSA is fighting to get a real working class movement going in America, and they need your help to do it, my friend. So if you never heard about DSA, if you're mildly curious about, you know, what that kind of organization might be trying to do, then by all means, click on that page and find out. We got chapters in every major city here in the States, y'all. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all again soon. Stay safe and take care of each other.